said I was missing, and I can do listening down the road. Up and down the road, down the road, down the road. Well, that's a singing down the road, that's a singing down the road, up and down the road. Send me in a sending, sending down the road. Send me to the station, 'cause I can't plan on sending down the road. What the sending down the road, what the sending down the road, what the sending down the road. What the sending down the road, what the sending down the road. I can see it sending down the road. What the sending down the road. Well, I can see it sending down the road. Man, gotta be my chance. You gotta bring that sound on that thing away. Oh man, you gotta be a best friend. You gotta bring that sound away, they'll sing it sound.
You good?
Yeah, you can go, 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 go.
Right. Welcome back to the Acoustic Shop channel. I am John, here with Jeremy doing a very special unboxing. You know why? Because that's what we do. It is something big. This is the ultimate Tony Rice guitar clone shootout. Of the things that when I finally saw the picture that I was most impressed with, this sunburst. This looks original, it looks right.
If that isn't love. Well, that's the mule Skinner Blues.
Hope you guys enjoy it. This is Alan Bybee in Grasstown.
My name is Alec Beshin.
I took that idea, kind of built on it layer by layer. It kind of sounded like and reminded me of some of my influences, so I called the song Borrowed.
Hey guys, it is New Guitar Thursday. Glad to be with you on Thursday. It has been a weird day today.
Welcome back, it's Takeover Tuesday. I'm so happy to have you back here at the Acoustic Shop.
Mask on. Right now. So it's live, but we're just on. What? We're on.
Hi guys, welcome back
Welcome.
to Shop Talk
It's Shop Talk
with special guests.
The ultimate special guest. This is actually amazing to have. We have both John McEuen and Alan Munde in here. Jeremy and Alan have a very smart alecky relationship with each other. So if you
owes me a
catch
quarter.
all of these back and forth between Alan and Jeremy, it is not disrespect from Jeremy, although it sounds like it. It is. Actually.
Sorry, it feels that way.
It feels that way. Anyway, we are here with two of the most legendary musicians that I know of. I was actually going through my list today of Nitty Gritty Dirt Band stuff that I've listened to throughout the years. I couldn't, as I was going through the list, I forgot how many of the great songs that I grew up listening to were the Dirt Band, and how much influence that had, not only just, and we're going to talk about all this stuff today, not only just like the Will the Circle Be Unbroken album, which for every bluegrass musician across the world is the official album, you know, everybody has to own. But just your guys' catalog of music and the styles of music that happened out of all of that. And I want to talk about all that stuff because I'm really excited about it. Like, genuinely super excited.
And Back to the Future 3.
And Back to the Future 3. But there's so much great music. So, and again, now we have John McEuen here, who is always part of that, co-founding member. And then Alan Munde, who's a co-founding member of everything Bluegrass. We've already had
a co-founding
these interviews.
member of the banjo.
Of the banjo. Were you actually a co-founding member of the banjo?
Actually, what I did is, you know, when banjo players use their thumb and they hit the second string?
Yeah.
That's me.
That was you? I got you.
That's his idea.
Yeah.
He gets a royalty every time somebody does that.
Also, I discovered why there is a position marker on banjos at the first fret.
Why is that?
It's because we're banjo players.
Fair enough.
I've got one.
Fair
I
enough.
never noticed it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's like put your first finger on the first fret of the first string and, oh my God.
Which one is it? Which one is it?
What do I do?
Which one is it? Which one is it?
Anyway,
Well, now-
if this is your first time watching Shoppe-Talk, here's the deal. We're watching it. We have comments going on right now. We're going to play here in just a minute.
We have
and then
moderators.
We
ask
have
questions, they'll
moderators.
get them to us.
Yep, ask questions.
When are you going to get a chance
requests,
to ask
all
Alan
that kind of
Munde
good
and
stuff.
John
You can
McEuen a
ask any
question?
questions about the Dirt Band, the years of the 70s, the 80s,
The
the
90s.
The Nitty Gritty Dirt Band is over 50 years old.
That is-
over 50 years old.
But that's a testament again to the music, because I was listening to it. This was stuff that I grew up with, and it spanned way before I got into music and did stuff, and it was still influential for that. So again, really cool. Again, put in your requests, your comments, your questions. We're here to answer them. We're gonna have fun with it. We're gonna play some tunes for you, and
We're going to have more fun than the people at home are going to have.
yeah,
I
we
know
are
that.
absolutely. I can't wait for it.
Alan's going to kick something off here, though.
Yeah, Alan is. Alan, you gonna kick us off with one? We're gonna do a bluegrass standard right now.
On yet on.
On yet on. Give me- I will. Yeah. Traveling down this long, lonesome highway, I'm so lonesome I can cry. Memories of how we quiet down. Hey! We did it, guys. We got a beginning, a middle, and an end. I called it success. That's
I call that very professional.
I learned that from you, Alan.
This is really cool. John has one of the coolest guitars ever created right there. We were remarking how it's I think
Prince stole it.
Yeah, Prince stole the idea from you. It definitely was a Prince-looking guitar, except he stole your idea first. So.
He was formerly known as Prince at that point. He was just a symbol, and it looked like that.
So tell us.
Formerly was a guitar.
It formerly was a guitar. What is the story of this guitar?
This guitar was made in South Africa
Really?
by Marvin Davis, a guy. It's called the Smooth Talker. And it's, when I plug it in, the sound guy always says, "That's the best sounding acoustic I've ever heard."
Really?
And I go, "Thank you." and proceed to play it.
That is such a cool. So it's called say that again, a Sleuth Talker?
Sweet Talker, Smooth Talker.
That's the Prince one. See, that's what
Smooth Talker.
I think he stole it from me.
And it's really a good. I've had it a few years.
It's very, very cool. Just in looks alone, but it does have a cool. It almost has that in between banjo guitar vibe going on, and it sounds really cool.
I went into George Gruen's store in Nashville once, and he goes, "John, come upstairs for a minute." George, I'm not buying anything. I just want to show you something. A new guitar. Just come upstairs. And I went upstairs, and he said, "Take a look at that." And I took it home.
There you go.
Did you plug it in? See how it sounded plugged in?
Yes, and it was wonderful.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, I can't wait to hear it tonight.
Did he show you his collection of serpents and snakes and all that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I take people to George. George is like the #2 stop for visitors in Nashville, where I moved a while ago. I live in Franklin, and I take people out of towners by George's store. I've done it 5 or 6 times now.
I gotta tell you, I have
Snakes?
Years and years and years and years ago,
Yeah.
I saw what he had at that
I
time.
have an unreasonable fear of snakes, so I'm not
all
a
right
big
with
fan.
him. I just don't want him as a pet.
Yeah, I'm not gonna. I don't know
each
why.
his own.
Yeah, to each his own. So, in case you don't know, George Gruen is a big collector of reptiles and serpents, especially. I think so.
So it's pretty exciting. The reason John's in town, he's going to be playing on Friday night at the Riff. I'm gonna get to hear this guitar plugged in, so what it really sounds like. That'll be exciting. But it's the 50th anniversary of Will the Circle Be Unbroken, and you wrote a book, correct?
Yeah, it's
Which is incredible. It's
an
been that long.
exciting time. There's this book I wrote about the album, Will the Circle Be Unbroken, with the photographs of my brothers. My brother was a record producer and the photographer and the manager.
Really?
His name was Bill McEuen. And he took all the wonderful photos that are seen on the album, but like they're 1.5 inches square. And I wrote stories for all the photos, and sorry, I started reading.
It's engaging.
It got that engaging that quick.
The thing I'm really proud of is Rita Forrester. I gave her the opening comment. She's the granddaughter of A.P. Carter.
That's awesome.
And anyway, she wrote a really sweet thing for me. And she called me and went, "John, I got the book and I couldn't believe where my words were." And, well, Rita, you deserve to be there.
That's awesome.
She's a really sweet person.
That's very cool.
And I had contributing writers. It starts off with the early dirt band, and that's
The Path to the Circle.
that's me at our first audition at Capitol Records, one that we didn't get the deal. We ended up going to every town, playing at some clubs around town. All shots my brother took. This is the 50s routine, and
It's awesome.
you have to get the
It's just a teaser
Everything
right
else
there.
is everything else is top secret.
So anybody that's local in Springfield area, Friday night it's going to be at the Riff. There's a pre-show that is now sold out, so you missed out on that. But at 7 o'clock, I think 7:30, officially the show starts for the general admission. But if you got those pre-show tickets, it's going to be some question and answer talking about the book, the history. We're going to have Rodney Dillard there as
special
well.
guest Rodney Dillard, who is also part of the music scene in that period
Which
of
I was
time, right?
surprised you give him
Well-
credit for getting you into the business.
I was a 17-year-old playing the guitar. I couldn't play very good. Well, my brother taught me everything. He taught me Freight Train.
You don't have to impersonate me. It's all right.
It was years before I could. But anyway, 6 months into playing guitar, somebody said, "Hey, you want to go to this club?" "What's a club?" I was 17. I didn't know what a club was. There was a club in Orange County called the Paradox. Well, why are we going there? Well, there's a group called the Dillards. What's a Dillard? I didn't know what the Dillards were. And I got to that club, and I'm sitting there, and I'm not one of these guys that ever did this. You know, the guy with the bouncy leg. And I was waiting for them to go on, and both my legs started doing that. And my hands started getting sweaty. And then the announcer goes, "Please make welcome from Salem, Missouri, the Dillards." And Doug Dillard came out there and kicked off Hickory Hollow.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, and Rodney became a lifetime friend over the years, and I thank the Dillards for giving me the inspiration, the influence, the motivation, the mentorship, all that stuff, for getting me into the music. And anyway,
we've had Rodney in here a few times. Rodney's a great friend, and like you said, an inspirational musician. I personally, and I've told him this many times, also a huge influence in the beginning of us learning to play. I mean, obviously, the Will Circle Be Unbroken album was a major, everybody had to have that. My dad, who was just, when I first started playing, my dad had just started playing music probably, I don't know, 3 years before that. And so it was just new to me, new to him. And we listened to that album. We listened to the Live Almost album from the Dillards, which to me, still to this day, is one of my all-time favorite albums. The style of Mitch Jane running a show. I learned so much about music and about performing just from that album alone. And
you being from New York, you learned something about the Ozarks.
I learned from the Ozarks. At that time, I was in Colorado. Like you said, we were just talking about this. My dad, I'll tell you the story too, but my mom and dad actually moved from New York. I wasn't born yet.
Oh.
They moved to Colorado. I was born in Colorado. My dad, on the way to work here today, called me up and he's talking to me and he says, "Ask John if he remembers playing Red Rocks in either 76 or 77. And I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, I'm sure he'll remember it." Ends up, actually, he does. He does remember playing Red Rocks. He said,
77.
77.
We played there. It was right when we got back from Russia. We were the first American band to go to the Soviet Union. We did 28 sold-out shows.
Wow.
And in the month of May, and it was incredible. It was like being in the Beatles. They didn't know who we were. They just thought we were an American group.
Yeah.
And they had never seen an American group, and they were.
But I'd assume they'd have heard the music, though. I mean, you guys
Maybe
were
not, though.
big
It wasn't
stars
allowed in
by
there.
then. Really?
It's more, and it still is, more restricted than you can imagine. One radio station in each town, and it would play farm report, weather, propaganda, news, and a song.
Sure.
And the song would be some kind of European love song or something, or a Russian
folk song,
whatever. And,
not that song.
And it went on like that. They had Bones Records, This will give you an idea of how strange it was. A Bones record. What is that?
What is a Bones record? Please
Well,
tell me.
They wanted to get that music imported, get it into Russia somehow. So a guy would go, I must have X-ray. He'd tell the authorities, I need to go to France. I need to go to London to get special X-ray. And they go get an X-ray of their chest, and they take that film, the celluloid, big film, and they copy an album onto it.
Wow.
KGB stupid because we come back through customs and it's just X-ray.
Yeah.
And it would
That's
be a
awesome.
Bones record, and they'd take it to a house, and their friends would be there with a couple tape recorders because you could only play it like once or twice, but it sounded not good, but it sounded better
It's
than what
music.
they had.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
And
That's
that
pretty
was-
genius.
yeah, it was. And when we played in Moscow, it was a beautiful 2,400 seat theater. And we're up there playing. We did 5 shows there. Somebody would get up and run out after 20 minutes. But then they'd come back in. Somebody there would get up and run out, maybe 25 minutes. Somebody over here would get up, but they'd come back. And then they'd get up again 20 minutes later. What's going on here? And they had timeshare tickets. The
Really?
tickets were so hard to get that 3 people would buy 1 ticket. I watched 20 minutes. Okay, I must go.
Wow.
You know,
That's pretty
and
amazing.
somebody else would come in. That happened every show in Moscow.
Wow. So you're saying that the show that my dad went to see, which he said was the very first show he saw when after he moved to Colorado, that was right after you came back from Russia, or
It could have been if it was 77, yeah.
Yeah, it was. It would have been. He said 76 or 77. So you had just got back that week or a couple weeks ahead of
That
time
year.
of that.
A month before.
A month before. Awesome.
Took 2 weeks to recover.
I bet it did.
The airplane, flying back on Aeroflot, no air circulation. You could not see from the back of the plane to the front of the plane. So much smoke.
That's when they would let you smoke in the
So
plane.
much smoke, you could not see the front of the plane. It was like, are they kidding? And you know, there was a story of an Aeroflot plane that came into Dulles, and we must land. Okay, go into the landing pad. No, we must land now. And anyway, they came in with maybe a gallon extra of fuel. They ran out of fuel right after they landed.
Glided
Had to
in.
be towed to the gate.
That's awesome. Well, I want to do something real quick, which is I'm going to introduce the fellow who's kind of hosting the show right now and check in with him right now. Keegan Hicks is our host. Say hi, Keegan. Or don't say hi.
I had to unmute myself
Oh,
real
you had
quick.
to unmute.
Hello, everyone.
This is actually Keegan's last Shoppe-Talk, guys. Keegan is going to be moving on to a new job, and after that, we will cut all ties with him. We will never speak to him
But
ever
if you guys
again.
want, he will supersize your meal if you drive through the drive-through at McDonald's.
Yep.
Yeah. The guy asking if you'd like fries.
Or supersize. Ouch. That is
That's
awful.
not true.
That is not true. He's got a great new job, and we are going to miss him dearly.
He's doing internet search engine optimization.
People are asking, I've seen a couple of comments of, name of the book, please. What is the official name of the book?
This book is called Will the Circle Be Unbroken? At 50 years, the making of a landmark album.
I would have went with The Circle is Still Unbroken.
And at 50 years, it's incredible because for the last 2.5 years on Amazon, it's been in the top 20 on 3 different charts because this is the dark side of the banjo, dark side of the moon of bluegrass, and it just keeps getting notice and stuff. It's new to a lot of people.
It is a new fan base.
The album was recorded 2-track, and in the book there's a bunch of explanation of the recording process. Of the recording process, what it takes to master a record, and it's not super technical. It's fairly easy to understand. Nice record headshot there.
I was reading on Wikipedia. Is it true that all of them were like 1 or 2 takes, just live recordings?
Most of the songs were 1 or 2 takes.
Yeah.
And Flint Hill Special was 7 takes because the band, Earl just, the band's not right yet, but on the 7th one, you know the ending of Flint Hill, right?
Yes.
He got it right every time.
Of course.
Every time.
Of course.
Boy, and he got the whole song right.
Yeah.
But the 7th one cooked, and we kept that one. And
That's the one with the big ending, right? The Scruggs specialized ending. Am I wrong on that? I'm trying to remember.
Crazy ending on it?
Yeah,
No, you're right.
Is it?
It's unusual.
unusual ending. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
like Earl.
Yeah.
And yeah, and Roy Acuff set it up by saying, you know, just remember our timing, and we got to get it right the first time, and you know, the hell with the rest of them. And it was something that I've always tried to do is get the first take, and the hell with the rest of them.
I will tell you, I also have always tried to do it on the first take and have
Rarely has it
never
worked.
ever had that succeed. So I'm just that kind of a player. It is that album is a testament to music in general, and I think my assumption is, you know, with the Will the Circle Be Unbroke, the idea was bringing back the roots of what you guys were doing at that time and all the bands of that period, and kind of talking. You brought back a lot of the classics. You brought in new folks, and everybody was kind of the music circle of, you know, what this music is all about. And then it was such a popular deal. It became a second volume of it that came out.
That was years later.
Quite a few years later.
And that was a little more production.
Yeah.
It wasn't my favorite.
Was not your favorite. But it's still, you know, I think it's the sentiment overall. Like I said, everybody who has ever got into Americana, bluegrass especially, folk music, they all know that
They
this
get issued a copy of
yeah,
that,
you
I
get
think.
issued a copy of that. You know that this is such a base of the roots of all the kinds of styles of music that we all grew up on. And, you know, no matter, like you said, 50 years ago, that was a 50 years ago album. And yet, like you said, it keeps
People are still
coming back
discovering it.
and it keeps getting discovered all
And
the
that's
time.
what I'll be talking about at the signing at the bookstore.
Yeah,
Cool.
tomorrow he's got a signing at.
Is it Pagination?
Yep, Pagination.
Pagination. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, I got details on
6
time.
o'clock.
6 o'clock.
And people can come by. I'll answer questions and talk about stuff. And yeah, when this came about, it was Earl Scruggs had come to see us in November. His whole family came. We were playing at Vanderbilt. Gary brought them. He brought them because he played Earl, Mr. Bojangles, and some of Shelley's Blues. Earl kind of liked those. Then he said he put on Randy Lynn Rag, and Earl really liked that because it was a fast bluegrass instrumental on the Uncle Charlie album.
Yeah.
And Clinch Mountain Backstep was on there too. And I didn't know Doc Watson was from Clinch Mountain area, but it was helpful. And Earl was playing a club in Boulder, Colorado, and I asked him, Earl, would you? I'm driving him back to the hotel, you know, and it's the last night, my last chance. Earl, would you consider? What is it, John? I was wondering, would you want to record with the Dirt Band? He goes, I'd be proud to.
That's
and
awesome.
I almost ran off the road. I called
With Earl? You almost took him out?
I called my brother that night and told him, I said, I'm going to ask Doc if he wants to record next week when he's here. Because I've already met Merle. A few months earlier, I'd met Merle in Los Angeles, but it was too crowded to meet Doc. I didn't like it, you know, everybody's around the Doc Watson. And I went up to Merle a week later and says, Earl said yes. Oh, I got to introduce you to Daddy. And he introduced me to Daddy, and we talked, and I put him on the phone with my brother, and that was set. And Bill said, talking to him later, I'm going to call Merle Travis on Monday. How do you do that? Oh, I don't know. He's on Capitol Records. So he got Merle Travis. Merle Travis had always wanted to meet Doc. Doc always wanted to meet Merle.
Sure.
That's pretty
awesome.
Pretty good. And I asked Earl if he'd get Maybelle, and he called the next day. Maybelle's going to be in. She's in it. She'll be there. And anyway, it came together. 8 weeks after I asked Earl that question, we started recording. We did 36 songs in 5 days.
Wow.
And so there. That's the
very
story.
awesome.
Jeff Hanna had never heard of Jimmy Martin. He said, "What's Jimmy Martin do?" You'll find out. I had all of Jimmy Martin's albums. Doug Dillard had told me. He played a banjo lick. He played that lick on "You Don't Know My Mind," a ding, da ding, 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 da ding, da ding, and yeah, and said, what's that? This is my second year of playing. He goes, J.D. Crowe, Jimmy Martin he plays with. Go get a Jimmy Martin record. Thank you, Doug. And anyway, I got as many of them as I could find in those days. And my brother and I played clubs around L.A. I mean, it makes it sound like we did a circuit, a tour. No, you played, we got a gig next month, you know, it was more like that. And, but we played Jimmy Martin and the Dillards music and Stanley Brothers. And
that's
anyway.
That's kind of the tie-in with Alan too, because Alan played with Jimmy Martin.
Yeah.
That was a few banjo players after Crow?
Yeah, it was in the late 60s. And I'm going to jump in there just to say that on the original Will the Circle Be Unbroken record, the liner notes were on the record sleeve.
Mm-hmm.
And in there's a quote from Jimmy Martin about musicians. And he says, my banjo player's probably at home asleep right now. Well, that was me.
What was you? Oh, no.
I wasn't asleep.
He wasn't asleep.
No, I was at the window.
Yeah, what's going on in there?
Yeah, no.
I remember a festival we did in West Virginia, and my banjo was in the car 50 yards from the stage. And Jimmy Martin and Byron and everybody, you guys, and Jimmy Martin said, I see John McEuen out there. I'm going to have him get his banjo and join me up here if he's not too big or blah, 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 blah. If he said, oh, I had to run and get my banjo, get it 50 yards back. And I'm a banjo player. I don't run very much. I don't know, do you run?
No.
Okay.
No.
He walks and picks up quarters.
Yeah.
And I got my banjo, and he was up there waiting, and you and Byron were out in the audience cracking up. I just thought it was fun. I'll never forget that.
You know, just one other quick connection that I like, just because, and I want to mention his name since you mentioned the recording engineer that recorded that album for you is from L.A., right?
Yeah, Dino Lapis.
Dino Lapis is also the engineer that recorded the first couple of Country Gazette records.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I got to know him a little bit.
Yeah.
Then, though, so that was real cool, and he was a very cool man, and
Yes.
you know, of the older era, but up in whatever the 70s were, he was hip to all that stuff. So he was a very wonderful guy to work with, and I imagine you all had a good time too.
Is that the same fellow when I talked to you about the structuring of the Gazette harmonies on that? Was that the same?
No. This, and you may, John probably knows, and that was Jim Dixon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Who did the early Dillard's records,
Yep.
the first 3 or so, I think, and early Birds and Burritos, and was in a lot of that. So
That is for those of you who are just new to all this and what's going on. That scene was an amazing scene that you guys both were part of, and Rodney was part of, and
Rodney was at the front.
Was at the front of it, yeah, because that's, and I didn't know that, honestly.
A lot of people didn't
know it,
and they didn't give him credit. They didn't have good management. They should have gotten the movie Paint Your Wagon, but the Dirt Band did. Because my brother was managing. He was a great manager.
Well, there you go.
But they would have been perfect in Paint Your Wagon. It would have been a nice shot. But you know.
I forgot that you guys had that scene in there. We watched that movie all the time.
A lot of people did.
I remember that, though.
Now
that you bring that up.
I forgot.
well, it's been a long time.
It has been a little bit. That movie came out before I was born, I think, and I still watched it later on, actually a lot. But it was great. When we brought Rodney in here and we had a lot of chats and talked about music, I knew him as the Dillards. I knew that world, the bluegrass Dillards, the bluegrass world of that. And I did not know his roots into, and he was telling us the stories of the country rock movement that was happening in that era, in the region where all of you guys were at. The Dirt Band was part of this, the Byrds, the Eagles, and all these bands. And then I sit there and I talk to Rodney in the morning. I go, yeah, I was in that session. I was helping to produce some vocal arrangements on this, and I was doing this. And that's amazing. And then you talk about the late Byron Berline, who was also part of that scene.
He played on a Rolling Stones album.
Absolutely. And so many things that Byron was involved in that was outside of the bluegrass world. And both of you guys, spent a bunch of time with those. That is, for myself, this has been the greatest part of this part of my life and my career, is getting to hang out with you folks who have the music that I find to be the most amazing, not even that I didn't even know that you were involved as heavily in, it's been amazing for me, and I just absolutely am honored to be able to sit here and chat about this.
Well, that's
stuff.
what's going to be fun about the show at the Riff, is Rodney and I are going to be able to play music, play some things that maybe we don't normally play, and talk about what happened. Because, a lot of people have the records. They don't need to hear the song. Oh, yeah, there it is. Oh, it doesn't sound as big because there's only 2 of them. Whatever. Oh, I like it because there's only 2 of them. Both. But the stories of what happened, the craziness that the Dillards went through, and the Dirt Band, and the Troubadour, and the Ash Grove, and all that stuff going on out there, it makes me want to play Soldier's Joy.
There you go. We're going to get there and play that here in just one second. Before we do, I want to check in one time with Keegan. Keegan, do you have a question of the day that we should pitch to everybody?
Yeah, our question of the day today is, who is a musician who has inspired you the most?
Alan Munde.
To me?
To everybody.
No, you inspired me the most.
Oh.
I couldn't help when John was talking about how nervous he got about asking Scruggs if he would play on the album, to think, was that what it was like when you were asking me if I would play a song with you? Like.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Jeremy and
I got to play Alan.
Yeah.
I'm very privileged that Alan
Who
asked me to play a
inspired you the
song.
most, Alan?
Well, certainly as a banjo player, it would be Earl Scruggs, but right after that, Earl was the one that you heard that was the magic, so to speak. But the one that really had the fire was Doug Dillard.
Yeah.
Of course.
Right.
Those early albums of the Dillards were just, I'm getting tingling just talking about them.
Yeah.
And I mentioned to Rodney one time, I said, those Dillards albums are among the very few that I can listen to and recreate the first time I ever heard them. Just a feeling. It was, just really
They were
something.
they were impeccable.
Yeah. They couldn't be pecked.
It was like crazy how good it was.
I agree.
It really is. It really is.
It was as good as Flatt and Scruggs, the 1948 original sound album. That in its way is on its own mark. But
Right.
the Dillards' Back Porch Bluegrass, phew.
Yep. That's quintessential bluegrass to this day.
Yeah.
For anybody, if you haven't ever listened to that, you need to get it. You need to do that.
They're going to play a song for us.
Okay.
They're going to do Soldier's Joy.
This is
the way it
song.
was
This
done.
is the first song that I wanted to record with Earl when I was about 18 or 19, before the Dirt Band started. And thanks to Earl saying I'd be proud to, we were able to do it. This is Soldier's Joy. He's going to play the Earl part. I'm going to play the Fralin part that I did, and we'll see what happens.
That is awesome.
Trent, I hope you got some close-ups of my face. I felt like one of those Gaither movies or films where just get a reaction shot of me going,
Yeah, that's pretty good. That was incredible. One thing we're talking about influential musicians. Again, I want to bring out something that I find to be really awesome with John. The Dirt Band everybody keeps rediscovering it. I told my son today that I was coming here and seeing you. My son is 9 years old now. 9, I think that's right. Yeah, 9 years old. And Jason's oldest son are both two of the biggest Dirt Band fans. They think the song "Fishing in the Dark" has been one of the greatest songs of all time. My son, literally every other night, he will push the button on Google and say, "Hey Google, play Fishing in the Dark," and he plays it to this day. And no, he does not ask. I one time played him the Garth Brooks version, did not care for that one bit. He wants to hear the Dirt Band, and that's it. So it continues to live. It continues to be a hit for multi-generations, and I just thought you might get a kick out of that.
I was in the Dirt Band for 50 years. At the end of the 50th year tour, I stepped off the bus and said, I've got to go do some other things. And Fishing in the Dark came up. It was the first song they recorded a couple years after I left. And it was a good one. It was like seeing the old alma mater win the football game. I used to play on that team, but I'm glad they're winning. You know? You don't want to
Absolutely. Well, and like that's a generational song, but there's so many others. Like you were talking about Mr. Bojangles. I loved, for myself, Dance Little Jean. There were so many hits that you guys did.
Dance Little Jean, Jimmy Ibbotson wrote when he was out of the band, and we were playing Kansas City, and people were singing along, just him and me as a duo, and people were singing along to a song they'd never heard before on the chorus. And I said, after that show, I said, we've done 3 shows together. It's the same thing every night. You got to get back in the band. We got to record Dance Little Jean. It's a country hit. Well, anyway, a few months later, he was back in the group, and we recorded Dance Little Jean. It was a country hit.
Well, I'm going to go a little bit more into depth in that song, only because for me, this is my favorite Dirt Band tune. And I'll tell you why. Obviously, I love the lyrics. I think, the song is a great song. What I really loved was
guitar part?
Well, I loved all of the
banjo part?
all of the parts.
My mandolin part?
All the parts. What I really loved
just trying to take
the orchestration of the arrangement. This is what I do. I get a big kick out of. There were so many intricate background things that 90% of the audience that listens to that song is never going to get a kick out of. There's the arpeggiated scale that goes through the section
you
that
bring
turns
that
in.
up. See, we'd recorded that song. It was mixing day. We're out on the road. The next day was going to be mixing day, and I dreamt of a part that I had to put on it. The band wouldn't take me to Nashville. We're in Cookville. We had a date in Knoxville. Drop me off in Nashville. No, we're going straight to. So I had to take a bus. I mean, a bus. And anyway, the part was. That's all. I pay wedding for the money. Wish I had all the bride and groom. Anyway, and it was just. And the producer went, "That's got to be on there."
That's got to be.
I said, "Yes, because that's the TikTok that we had on Shelley's Blues."
Exactly. You had that arpeggio. The arpeggio scale,
yeah.
yep.
My
and
big guitar lick.
that ends up turning into the wedding,
Yeah, that came.
That stuff was all genius, in my opinion. And so again, there's my. I want to tell you the influence stuff that I thought was great. Was yes, it's a fabulous song, but I love that was a kind of thing that the Dirt Band did quite often, was go in depth into the arrangements, not just about here's the chord progression, here's your basic solos and all that kind of stuff. There was thought put into things like a pattern that comes out of nowhere.
Special trip to Nashville for it.
Yeah, special trip to
Road
Nashville.
was a simple thing. It was detuning on the guitar. I started it with. I just started. Jim started singing. Way back in my memory, there's a scene that I recall. I can't sing like it. But the way the arrangement went, it built from there. It started off traditional. It turned into country. The only electric instrument was a bass, and it was really an example of that also. Thank you, Rodney
very
Crowell,
cool.
for giving us Long Hard Road.
And again, another fabulous tune right there.
Keegan, have we had any questions directed at these fellas?
You get a question ready. I'm going to play the guitar.
Yeah, we had one for John from our Facebook group. Someone wants to know if John enjoys jamming with other musicians.
We'll ask you. That was cool. That's fun. Absolutely.
What's the question?
The question was from the audience member: do you enjoy jamming with other musicians? Do you still get together with musicians all over and get together and jam with them, or are you just kind of just doing your thing these days?
If I didn't do this, I'd stay at home. But, you know, not that many people come by. Yes, I do enjoy jamming with other people. It was wonderful to hear you do the first song we did.
It was fun.
I haven't heard that song in 40 years, but it was well done.
Me neither. So
And,
that was the best part about that.
And playing with Alan Munde is something I've always wanted to do. Thank you, Alan.
Oh, thank you, John, for inviting me.
It was, and again, this is that mutual admiration of musicians, and that is so amazing because I find us so fortunate in the Springfield area. We have actually had a lot of legends coming into the shop and doing stuff. And you know, Alan's one that we started to take for granted, and I never want him to ever feel that we do, because he does come by the shop so often. He's been a teacher, instructor at our
He makes money
bluegrass
off
camp.
it, so.
Yeah, every time we pay him to be here. Quarters and quarters. But he's an extremely generous person with his knowledge of music, and I love stories.
There's
No,
another
more than
question there
anything, I love stories.
for John. Does John remember playing in Springfield with his Great American Roadshow in 1983? It was him, Ibby, Doc and Merle,
Mark O'Connor.
Michael Coleman, Peter Rowan, and Mark O'Connor.
Yeah.
We actually
Was
got.
Do you remember that? Somebody
playing
asked.
Of course I remember it. The Dirt Band would never, like, are we going to work in January? And it's like November. You know, would you guys make a decision? And by the first week of December, they'd made a decision. And since it was a Democratic thing, I was outvoted. We're not going to work. I have 6 kids. I live in the mountains at 8,000 feet. My heating bill is $600 a month in 1983. That's like $1,200 a month now, you know. I got to work. So I put together the Great American Roadshow. I got the bus, the band bus. It wasn't working. And anyway, we took these guys on the road. I did 10 dates, and it made money. We did a TV show. It was really
Awesome.
cool.
I guess I came through Springfield. So
No,
I'm
we
assuming.
didn't.
So they said
You
it
didn't?
playing in Springfield.
We did not do that show in Springfield.
Oh,
Did you do it somewhere close by it? Maybe they're assuming a different one. It says in Springfield, but maybe they're missed on that one.
Sedalia, maybe?
Next.
Could be. We got another one again to follow. This month's been really good for us and getting to play with legends. We got to play with Peter Rowan last week. That was
wow.
the first time.
And he
I
brought
got
up
to do
that road
Peter
show.
Rowan was on that show too.
Yeah.
I think.
He brought that up.
Yeah,
said him and Mark O'Connor.
Yep. He was talking about that.
John, when
so-
you play Carolina Traveler, I was inspired by you and Earl picking that tune.
On Carolina Traveler, how cool.
Yeah.
Because that was like on my String Wizards album, and that was like
remember that
much
album.
later, 20 years after The Circle. And that was a neat song.
Absolutely.
Earl and I were going to play that at the IBMA Bluegrass Convention, and I called up Tom Gray. Hey, you ever wanted to pick with Earl? And Tom goes, yeah. I says, well, you're on. And so we worked on Carolina Traveler like 15 times. We went out on stage. Earl started Home Sweet Home.
You guys just went with
At
it?
the end of it, and Louise is in the audience, and somebody said, she was sitting next to somebody, and she goes, wrong tune. And at the end, Earl said, that was Home Sweet Home, not Carolina Traveler. We got time to do Anyway, it was fine, Earl. I'm frailing Home Sweet Home in C, which I've never done. But, it wasn't hard. Anyway.
Well, somebody's asking if you would play it. Do you think you could play it for them right now, or a little bit
Carolina
of it?
Traveler?
Mhm.
We're running out of time. You'll have to come, and I won't do it tomorrow anyway.
So tomorrow's going to be the book signing at Page Nation, which is off Walnut Street, at 6 o'clock. So you're going to be talking about the book, reading some passages, signing copies. So you're all invited. A very special opportunity to get a signed copy of the Will the Circle Be Unbroken 50th anniversary book, telling the history of how it all came to be.
Are you going to have copies of the album as well? I saw you brought some CDs.
Of course, I got
figured
copies
you
of
would.
the album.
I figured you would. Absolutely.
This old chestnut.
Yeah. Some of the stuff I love about that album, by the way, is the pre and after chatter that goes along with those. Some of my favorite stuff, the studio chatter.
Well, my brother thought it was important to pick up talking because he wanted to make a documentary of this. We couldn't afford getting film people. It was too cumbersome. There was no video. It was like, but he wanted to record all the audio. And he had a tape recorder sitting over there going at 3 3/4 inches per second. Slow. That's what that means. People with hard drives, they don't know how fast it goes or if it turns at all. And they don't turn anymore, do they? But I don't know either. But my job was to change the reels, which was really fun because the part where Merle Travis comes in to meet Doc Watson, he was way off the mic. He was like, "Hey, Doc Watson," and my brother's in the control room. I know what he said. Like, excuse me, Merle. Let's just hear for a minute. So we could pick him up. Yeah. The two of them talking.
That's cool. Documenting all that.
And Maybell's talking. It was really wonderful, and it was like the Doc goes, "Maybell, you remember the ending you put on that old song?" And she goes, "Well, on the old record, I started it like this." That had to be cut together.
Sure.
And my brother's editing skills came to light there. He was a great editor.
Well, back in those days, editing also, I remember talking to, I think it was Vornick. We were talking, he wasn't part of that album, but we were talking about the Bluegrass Album Band because it was also a mostly live album. And they talked about cutting it. And you actually had to take the 2-inch tape that was there and cut tracks. And yours was not.
2-inch tape?
That was 2-inch tape. Yours was not.
No, it was 1 inch. It was half-inch.
Half-inch?
Yeah, it was
Okay.
2-track.
Oh no, for yours. I'm talking about the Bluegrass Album Band. Sorry, of Tony Rice and those. And they were doing multi-tracks. And you literally had to cut it and splice pieces here and there and tape it together. And
razor
your
blade.
2-inch.
Yeah, I've done that.
Your 2-track would have been that way too.
Staple them together.
Staple.
What was fun about the multi-track, the 2-inch tape, is if there was a mistake you couldn't erase, you could go in and on track 7 and cut out a little hole.
A little hole.
So that it wasn't there anymore. But you better cut it right. One chance.
Take away from the other track.
My brother was cutting the tape with a razor blade,
Yep.
and since we recorded directly to the master, he had to be careful because you don't want to have a piece that wide that you need, Okay, right there. I'm gonna cut it.
That's wild.
Anyway.
That's pretty awesome.
We should probably play another tune. We got time for probably one more, maybe.
Thank you for tuning in. This is a
Yeah.
Merle Travis song that's on the Circle album.
And then, if you haven't got your tickets already, this Friday night, they're available on our website, theacousticshop.com. They'll also be available on the Riff site. There's a link in the description of wherever this feed is. Thank you guys for tuning into it. And thank you guys for coming. Alan Munde, John McEuen. Very cool honor to have you guys here. I appreciate that so much.
Both of my friends all gathered round. They would say to him, and lay there sleeping, good Lord, sweet me. His soul was found. I am a pilgrim. I was a real stranger when we went to Russia. I had a good time though. I traded a pair of Levi's for a house and a car. Jam at home.
Awesome. Thank y'all for joining us for Shop Talk today. We've had a great time. The greatest of special guests and legends, both John McEuen and Alan Munde. I want to thank you both for being here. It was a lot of fun answering your questions. Keep adding those questions, and remember that most influential musician. We'd like to hear from you.
Your most
Bring the
Who was it?
questions to the gig, okay?
That's
'Cause
right.
I say, every show, I say, any questions? The first time I say it, everybody goes, questions? But the second time, there's a question. Third time, you get a few good questions. And
There
it's
you
always
go.
fun to see where they take you.
Yeah, that's right. So again, put those in the comments. We're still monitoring those, and there will be people answering those. We'd love to hear from y'all. So again, thank y'all for joining us for Shop Talk. We will see you next week. We will be back.
Keeganless.
Keeganless. Bye, Keegan. We're gonna miss you so much. Bye.
Bye bye, everybody.